Okay, hello everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Not done a video response quite like this before. I wanted to talk for a minute about something that, this is one of those things you need to talk about with people all the time, but it's not necessarily teaching of, I'm not going to say that. It is a teaching of Buddhism, although it's from a perspective not of scholarship, but of actual human day-to-day experience, our samsaric experience. How do we practice Buddhism as a human being? How else would you, right? But this is something that was actually one of the strong motivators for me to start creating these videos and doing this as an independent Buddhist of Nichiren scholarship, of Lotus Sutra practice, and of the correct practice of Buddhism in its entirety, which is what, if you study at all, comes through from the word go from Shakyamuni Buddha some 2,700 or more years ago, right? Anyway, so I've been in communication with a new subscriber to this channel, and he's practiced before, like many of us. He started out and was, we've all gone through our own path of assimilation, membership, excitement, disenchantment, blah, blah, blah. It's samsara, right? And there's a very large organization that's been around for quite a while that has the merit of having spread the word of Nichiren's doctrine quite broadly. So hooray for that. Unfortunately, there's some really negative aspects to it that even led the sectarian Buddhist order that they were attached to, kicked them out. It's this egotistical thing that's a disease within that branch of Buddhism, that sectarian Buddhism, that's just eating it alive. But for some reason, and I'll theorize on this, the adherents to this club, I'll call it, because it's become, and if you're listening to this or listen, I was a member for a while, so I'm not talking out of school here. This is very, very much a cult now. And it's tragic that they're using Nichiren's teachings and the teachings of Buddhism completely against itself. It makes no sense to me. But you will encounter them because there are quite a few people who follow and I'll read this to you because I'm not making these words up, okay? And I don't want to use this person's name because this comes up a lot. So it came up in my own experience 40 years ago, and it's still happening. And actually, it's probably worse now because they have been labeled quite a lot, not only by the very Buddhist sect that they appropriated, but, from many, many, many countries and people throughout the world. So this lesson isn't about, identifying these people as problematic. What it is about is your Buddhist practice. As you noticed, as I remember when I was a brand new practitioner to Lotus Sutra Buddhism and specifically Nichiren scholarship, something happened almost immediately. And it's something that Nichiren talks about. Is that when you begin to practice Buddhism correctly, Myoho Renge Kyo, your aura, remember we and our environment are one thing. So when we start to change our life condition, we attract or we affect, we influence the world around us. And that means other people. And we'll have people come out of the woodwork, seemingly, complete strangers, start to engage us in conversations sometimes that are very, very personal. And you're like, how are you talking to me like we're intimate friends? I've never met you in my life, right? Or directly confronting you about religion or Buddhism specifically. They just seem to come out of the woodwork. And in Buddhism, we learn that that's because they're craving the knowledge that we are now changing our lives with. Our life condition is glowing out, and these people, like moths to a light, are attracted to it. They may not even know, probably don't know, why they're attracted. And when you first start, this is really a proof that's almost unsettling, because we're not ready to answer these questions. We're not ready to nurture them, but it's your bodhisattva nature to do so. So it's when you first start, it's just important to be kind, to be supportive, to invite somebody to come to your home and try something new. Or at very least, while they're engaged with you and you're being nice to them, ask them, have you ever heard of Myoho Renge? Can you say it? Can you say Namu Myoho Renge? No, I've never heard of that. It's really an amazing self-discovery. You know, you don't introduce them to the whole school of Buddhism. That's very intimidating. But it's very natural. This is like it's a mantra. It's a mantra that develops your knowing of your life, the depth of your experience and your knowing in your life. Try it. It's really interesting. You can just do it in your head, and get stuck in a traffic jam. It will calm you. It will give you resolve. If you want to know more about it, here's my number or whatever. You can call me. Be careful, because when you commit to somebody like that, you're committing to a very big thing, which you yourself are going through. So it can be tumultuous. So be careful about that. But at very least, you can be friendly, kind, see if they've ever heard of Myoho Renge. You don't know what you're going to get from that, so proceed with caution. But this is your bodhisattva practice. Right away, it happens, right? And like I said, it can be scary. The more we practice and the more we study and learn, the more confidence we gain, right? So that very same conversation can sound from the outside identical, but your depth of confidence about it will, again, be different, and you will attract people from your environment who are ready to hear it. Whether they become, students of yours, again, be wary, get to know them well, get to know them enough that you feel safe bringing them into your home. Don't just bring them into your home thinking the Buddhist gods will protect you. Be cautious, be intelligent. That's a good Buddhist, right? We're not just mindlessly glowing through the universe going, come over here, we're up. No. Okay? We have sensibilities, we have intelligence, and think of it this way. Respect your practice. Your practice is precious. It is the fundament of life. So we don't throw that around like it's a gift card, right? It has to have respect. Okay? So when these people come out of the woodwork and they're curious, don't let your ego take over. Do you hear what I'm saying? Let yourself be honored that your practice is so profound and respectful in your life that it's affecting those around you. That doesn't mean that everyone around you is ready to jump in gung-ho. It just means that they see your life condition and they want some. Not everyone, even though they're attracted, is ready to be trustworthy. is ready to be committed or respectful. That's very, very important, because there are organizations out there that turn this practice into a magical thinking religion where it's all about drafting people, getting the numbers, getting them in here, because it's a money-making engine. They don't say that, of course, but they run around like flower children, or people handing you books in airports and those kind of things, just to get the numbers, get it out there. How is that respectful to your practice? It isn't. Okay? So that's the point of this video. One of the points, anyway. Respect your practice. When that happens, if people come to you, treat them kindly. You are an ambassador to this very precious and respectful practice. Don't think of them as an opportunity, each and every one. They're an opportunity for you to demonstrate respect and possibly have them attempt to say Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Some will do so very quickly and very easily. Some will struggle mightily just to say Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. That's an indicator, by the way. That's a physical indicator of their life condition relevant to their potential in that moment, how many obstacles they're facing to their karmic wellness. Pay attention to these things. I don't mean categorize them and say, oh, well, you're never going to be able to. No, no, no. Again, respect, kindness, nurturing. If you're ever interested, maybe it's not your home, maybe it's a website, direct them to my website, threefoldlotus.com. Direct them to my videos. That protects you. Use these videos, use my podcasts as an opportunity for others to awaken. If they get interested, they'll contact you. Or they may practice on their own, in private, in hiding. Whatever it is they need. You've done your bodhisattva duty by answering their moth to your light, giving them what they need, and then letting them go off. If they're people that you know, by all means, and you trust them, and they're curious or interested, make yourself available. But you don't feel like you have to take on the world here. Don't do anything outside your comfort zone, your confidence with this practice. I can't stress that enough. There's no pressure on you to become an apostle or a salesman. This is not Buddhism. Buddhism is about respect, dignity. Being an example, shoju, is the best entrance into this practice. Somebody else has to have enough self-dignity and worth to their life for a sangha to develop. See, that's what we're doing. We're developing a sangha, like-minded people, people with the same goals, people with deep respect, wanting to build confidence in their own lives. This is Buddhism. We're not trying to recruit. We're trying to engage. That's a very different methodology, isn't it? So, back to this email. I just recently got into my first argument with an SGI member. This member was walking around handing out cards, chanting cards, Myoho Renge Kyo. He was recruiting. And they must have engaged into conversation. And so rather than being... Now, this is a very courageous member. He's been practicing for a while, and he just joined our group. And so obviously his confidence is up, right? He's practicing correctly and pulled this guy right out of his environment. And he handled it admirably well, if I can go by this email. But it's a great opportunity to talk about this because this SGI member, the Daisaku Ikeda cult, they've done all sorts of things with the mandala. They've totally trashed the current mandala of the sect they purport to follow. In Buddhism, they've chosen a previous one, like it's better. That whole thing that you hear me talk about all the time. The only mandala we need to worry about is the one Nichiren inscribed. All of these others are fabrication of samsara, ego and control and authoritarianism, right? Not just that sect, not just Ikeda, all of them. When they put their own name and their own date on it, like that's the proof that it's the right mandala, what an egotistical thing to do, right? And it turns out that's the very issue that this sect had with Ikeda, was his ego. Well, the sect has the same problem from the get-go, back 700 years. There's all sorts of proofs and scholarship about the machinations and inventions that sect has done over time to what's the word I'm looking for? To somehow, anyway, to get power. It's that old greed, anger, and stupidity thing that Shakyamuni told us about. Nichiren tells us about. We live in that age. This age of, what is that I'm seeing? Oh, my phone was creeping into the silly man. Anyway, like I've told you before, nobody owns Gohonzon other than you. It's your Gohonzon is your Buddha wisdom. This mandala is a reflection of the Gohonzon. It's not the Gohonzon. It's a mandala. It's a perfect mirror of Gohonzon is within you. Nichiren says this. And so this is why I use this Gohonzon. This is there are ancient documents that are kept in special collections or in temples that are original documents. And in those original documents, there are 125 that are known today. There are different forms of this mandala that Nichiren was working out over time and handing to certain people to aid them in their practice. And when he finally, in his last decade of teaching and so forth, he was refining this mandala to be universal, to be for anyone to use as this perfect mirror of their Buddha-ness, representing all of the scholarship, the Dharma, right? And this is what he came up with. This was the final, if you will, representation or mirror for anyone's path, Buddha wisdom, Gohonzon, right? It doesn't have anybody else's name on it. It's Nichiren, the signature at the bottom, Nichiren. My testament to your Buddha-ness. Here it is, right? Why would you use anybody else's? Only if you believe in Western or Occidental or anyway, hierarchies, right? Organizations, authoritarianism. This one's better than that one. Ours is the only one that's true. Theirs is bullshit. That whole kind of thinking is not Buddhism at all. But it hovers under the umbrella term Buddhism, right? Nichiren fought this his whole life. That's why we're Nichiren Buddhists. Because he was a reformer of all of these supposed scholars who were just political animals, looking for superiority, looking for power, looking for fame. Now you hear me say this. Let me read this part of the letter. He said I was being disrespectful of the Gohonzon and my practice was invalid because I don't honor Daisaku Ikeda as the current prophet. Prophet? Where's that term from? Where have you heard that before? Mohammed? Jesus? Yahweh? Pick a religion in the world and I'll point to you dozens of prophets. This is magical thinking, my friends. This is what's wrought from authoritarian thinking. We live in the age of greed, anger, and stupidity. That doesn't mean that everyone's greedy, that everyone's stupid, that everyone's angry. Remember, anger in Buddhism doesn't mean fury. It means machinations, right? Deception, manipulation. That's anger in Buddhism. Well, look at our world today. It's everywhere. It's not just in religions, but religions are set up, look at it, as corporations. Clue. What's an organization or corporation's first driver? The business of being a corporation, an organization. The members, the people within that organization, they're way at the bottom of the priority list. They just help. They're the foundation, the bottom of the pyramid that helps hold up the major players. It's all about ego, avarice, political power, money. How is that in any form related to Buddhism? It simply isn't. It's a cult of personality. And that's why you have these people running around with pamphlets and folders and busily trying to inculcate. It's Amway. It's Shackley. I don't remember. Right? And I say it animated like this because it's so profoundly disrespectful of our enlightenment, of our awareness, of Nichiren, of this mandala. It's so not Buddhist. It cries out to be extinguished. What a crime. What a lamentable thing. Oh, man. You know, Nichiren lived through the shogunate and exiles and attempts on his life. I wonder how he would be treated today. So, the question at the end of this email is, do you have advice for how one should conduct themselves with people who disagree? And I have to say, with people who disagree, that this person who wrote me this email, this letter, is very kind. He could have said a lot of other things about this person. But I thank you for that letter. You know who you are. And I sense from you a deep respect and sense of responsibility about this practice. So this is why I'm responding with this video, because this is a very, very important thing. How do you respond to somebody who confronts the very root of your enlightenment? This person told him he would go into 1,000 hells. What does that even mean, right? This just shows, this demonstrates very obviously how magical these people are thinking, or any person, whether it's Ikeda or anything else. The point isn't about, this isn't about a kill SGI video. That's not my point. This particular encounter is one that I think far too many of us potentially have if we haven't experienced it already. And I think it demanded of me that I do this video, because that was a very big part of why I started doing this independently. I've been confronted while shopping. Somebody who's quite smart, asking really pointed questions and saying things in a way to try to, I don't know, I guess this person was angry that I was practicing Nichiren Lotus Sutra Buddhism. And evidently he had been exposed to it, maybe even tried practicing, but he saw it. Actually, he saw it. I have to give him credit. He knew, he had a better understanding of what was happening with SGI. I started with NSA, not SGI, but same organization. And at the time, it was much more, how shall I say, much softer. It wasn't so militant. But it didn't take long for it to become militant, and I always felt uncomfortable in the organization because of that odd kind of 1,000-yard stare about Daisaku Ikeda. The practice, nowhere in the sutra does it single out Daisaku Ikeda. Nowhere in Nichiren, even Nichiren, the person that he was, the votary of the Lotus Sutra, always talked about himself in very humble terms as just another man, a faulty man, who somehow ended up with this responsibility on his lap to correct the misnomers and misuse of the Buddhist teachings, the scholarship. He saw it, he knew it, and he felt a deep confidence and responsibility for setting the record straight. Kudos to Nichiren. That's some amazing courage. But that responsibility falls on every one of us. We are the bodhisattvas of the earth. But give yourself a break. You know, your practice goes through stages. Your confidence builds with your knowledge. And only after you have a certain amount of knowledge can you adequately help others with confidence in their practice. This is the benefit of the Sangha. I'll say it again. Use me. Use my website. Use these videos. Use the podcasts. Use the tools at hand that are helpful in your practice and share them. This is Bodhisattva. You don't have to answer everything to the nth degree. You only need to support. If you can share an experience that relates to somebody, by all means, do it. More questions will arise. When some of them seem difficult, don't feel it's your responsibility to respond. Use it as inspiration for your own study. As though you're asking the question of yourself, of your own Buddha wisdom. Use it as an opportunity to take that person and yourself to your altar. Open up this mandala and chant with that person. The answer that each of you needs will come because you both have Buddha, Buddha-ness, Buddha nature, right? Be smart. When our ego gets in the way, we think that it's up to us. Oh, I have to convince you. I have to show you why this is true. No. Shakyamuni said this as well. Remember this, innumerable ways, innumerable paths. Everyone you meet will have a slightly different way of understanding the world. And that means they'll have a different path to their Buddha nature. All you need to do is assist. You don't have to show them every street sign and every pebble on the way. They need to do that. So this is about teaching, right? And being a bodhisattva. Be an example. Be a supporter. show people where to find their answers. Don't be the answer. That's a sure way to fire up karmic fireworks. And if there are fireworks, use them to take you to Gohanzan. Take you to this mandala and instantiate, invoke your Gohanzan for Buddha wisdom. Your own wisdom for your own practice that you are convinced and confident and experiencing. And let whoever you're helping, whether it's 1 or 100, experience it for themselves in their own way. Make sense? So, when somebody confronts you, let's get to the meat of this. What do? Well, there are innumerable ways or conditions or situations where you might be confronted. So once again, the universal answer you're going to hear from me is be kind, do your best not to react, don't let those fluids in your body manipulate you, zing you into response. Believe me, I know. There are times when I feel so personally insulted. But that's just my maleness, my ego, my earthly, samsaric fragileness, right? We're vulnerable, but that's okay. I choose, if I don't know how to react to somebody, I laugh. Laughing is the most diffusing thing, and sometimes it infuriates people who want to get a reaction out of you, which is really telling, isn't it? If you laugh and somebody explodes, you can laugh harder and go, oh my goodness, this is I'm not giving you precisely what you don't want. I'm giving you, right? But other than that, I mean, everything is a learning opportunity, a teaching opportunity, but the teaching may be to ourselves, not the person who's assaulting us, right? So, barring anything else, the next step is Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Maybe they practice and they don't say Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. They say something different. And because you don't say what they say, you're evil. You're going to go through 1,000 hells, right? They don't even know what they're talking about. They're displaying for you the very life condition of hell. And yet they're accusing you of going to hell. That's amazing. So first of all, if you're confronted, it depends on how you're confronted. If somebody's being loud and with you, you don't need to engage with that person. Seriously. If you're courageous and confident enough to say Namo Myoho Renge Kyo to them, they may explode even further in front of you. So just walk away. Have a nice day. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I hope you find peace. I hope you find confidence with your practice. Thank you for practicing. Just be kind, validating Buddhist. If somebody assaults you but genuinely is questioning what you're doing, again, this is all up to you. Your level of engagement is up to you. You're a bodhisattva. You're an example. I practice to deepen my confidence. I feel very strong in my practice. My life has changed with my practice. Thank you for showing it to me. Thank you for asking me about it. Thank you for being in my world. You see what I'm saying? It's a diffusion, but it's also a validation. Oh, you practice Myoho Renge as well. How wonderful. How wonderful for you. I'm deeply appreciative of Nichiren in my Buddhist practice. Thank you so much for pointing that out. No, you're practicing wrong. You're da, 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 da. I'm sure you'll work that out one day. It's not up to you to change them. It's up to them to change them. Do you see what I'm saying here? Don't allow yourself to go down that slide of engagement with somebody who's being destructive. You don't need that in your life. None of us do. Just validate, validate, validate. This practice is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's given me so much. Thank you for pointing it out. That doesn't have to make sense to the conversation because all they are is rah, 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 rah. You don't have to respond to that. When a dog comes up to a fence and just barks at me, rah, 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 all fury and madness, I know that he's just performing a duty. And I'll crouch down so I'm not so imposing. I'll say, good boy, good girl, good job. Rah, 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 rah. Okay, bye-bye. And I'll walk away. It's the same thing. Think of that. If that person's assault is really harsh and attackful, all you can be at that point is an example of calm kindness. That's Bodhisattva. You don't need to engage in verbal arguments. Just avoid it. Right? Don't run from it. Show strength and confidence. But don't try with your samsaric mind to engage in their argument. Now they've got you. Because they're deluded. They're just going mad. If you want an example of what Nichiren talks about and what the sutras talk about, a person's mind severing into 7 pieces, there it is. Don't do the same to yourself. Instead, witness it with awe. Ah, there it is. Your mind is split into 7 pieces. How ominous, how amazing. I'm not saying you say that to them. I hope you understand that. I'm saying to yourself, understand that that's what that looks like. That's frightening, but it's also an amazing example from your environment of what happens when the ego, avarice, greed, anger, and foolishness takes over when you're not practicing correctly. So this is an example in your environment of what happens. And certainly you'll see more of that in your environment when you practice correctly. It's obvious. Right? You've seen the example where you take a bowl of water and you sprinkle it with pepper. And then you take your finger and you put a little bit of dish soap on the end of it. And then you watch carefully when you take your finger and you just touch the surface of the water. The pepper goes, right? Your clean practice, Myoho Renge, the moment it gets into the environment, there's a ballistic reaction. So if you're confronted that way, know that that is validation of your practice, not a call to arms. Don't go to war. Be above it. Be the example. Be smart. Protect yourself. But, sometimes assaults are very curious. They just want to know. Sometimes they turn bad. Sometimes they turn kind. Sometimes they want to come home with you. They're all different types of confrontations from your environment. But they're all validation of your practice. Find a way to be kind with it, to be helpful with it, without feeling like it's your personal responsibility to wash their car, feed them, house them. They need to find their Buddhahood. You're just the helpful conduit that they may or may not use. You don't have to be that. You simply need to be the example. Now, when relationships progress and you move more into a teacher-student relationship or a Sangha relationship, that's a whole different story. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about those initial confrontations, whether they're ballistic or they're kind or they're wishy-washy, whatever. The primary engagement here is that of an example of confidence and security and respect of Myoho Renge, this practice. Okay? I hope that's helpful. I decided to make this video because I thought, even though I'm rather isolated here in the country, in Mississippi, and the lone Buddhist in the area, it can be, I'm working from memory when I lived in Southern California, where you're surrounded by people all the time, that these confrontations happen quite often, especially if you make a major karma-busting move in your own practice. Suddenly, the environment becomes totally different. People look at you differently, talk to you differently. So I think it's very important. How the hell do I behave as a Buddhist in society? A society which, I will remind you, is governed by greed, anger, and foolishness. Right? Look, I'm living in the Bible Belt. Think about that. Okay, so I hope I've touched on some of your experiences. I hope that my advice is useful and helpful to you. I just want you to have confidence and deep respect for your Buddha nature, your practice of Myoho Renge. I mean, that's it. It's a reverent thing because it's so full of dignity, validation, valuation for the very essence of what it is to be an earthly being. It's the most honorable, most fulfilling existence to be a human pursuing one's Buddha nature. How could living this life be any more valuable than to do that with it? Not become a warring faction or devout this or devout that, but simply to practice one's enlightenment, the dignity of life itself. What an amazing journey. Namo Myoho Renge. I'll see you in the next video. Please take care and strengthen your practice at every opportunity. And the examples are all around us, right? Namo Myoho Renge.